I also want to speak on the fact, Mr. Speaker, that there's racial disparities here. When there was a drug issue in the African American community, we were prosecuted, we were put in jail, children were put in foster care, families were ripped apart. It was treated like a criminal justice issue. We had Rockefeller drug laws. Our jails were filled with men and women that looked just like me and people from the 43rd Assembly District. But now, we have an opiate issue. It is affecting another demographic, and now it is a health issue. And now we have to put money into diverting individuals from prison into treatment. And so what is missing from this package is a restorative justice package for all those individuals that were jailed, and for all those families that were ripped apart, and for the individuals who have criminal records because they had addiction issues, just like the issues, just like the people who are suffering. So with that, I vote in the affirmative, but more needs to be done here.
So, Rajo Topika.
Yeah, right.
Yo! We're back for another great episode of Millennials versus everything, everybody, every species.
Everyone, everywhere.
Everywhere, every
In
time.
every time. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Yo, we're here with, again, our illustrious guest. I feel like we robbed Jesus and Mero, because that's what they always say.
They don't own the fucking word illustrious.
Yeah, but
Mike is illustrious too.
I appreciate that.
There can be more than one illustrious.
Yo,
we have he's not even a guest. Just a family member who came right back from vacay. Mike Hinnix from Hinnix Enterprise is here to join us. And we got a lot to talk about. So, Young Buck, inform us. What are we going to talk today for about an hour?
So, for this week, man, we really need to address this drug crisis. We talked about it, or you heard it in the clip earlier, right? So, we have a several-tiered justice system, but when it comes to drugs, it's often, racially based. So, this week, we're here to talk about us millennials v. the war on drugs. Just want to leave some room for any kind of sound effects. Boom. All right. So first we have a clip from CNN where they kind of frame this narrative. Right now we have an opioid crisis going on in America, as we all know, right? But to kind of put it into context, we need to go back a bit, right? So
we're going to play right now, right?
Right. And so to talk about, I'm not gonna play. So like
no,
to talk.
You should. It picks up on it.
Okay.
It sounds good.
All right, so here we go. I have a clip here from CNN Politics. So try playing it here. Fair use. Don't attack us in the streets, por favor.
No ads. Fuck you.
Right. No free advertisement.
Fuck you,
for
Geico.
Yeah, right.
They got their plug whether they wanted it or not.
For real, yeah.
Even though that's literally my insurance, and they've been great to me, honestly. Like, I have no complaints about my car insurance. Like,
yeah, cleaning up now, right?
Yeah, like, ads aside, like, they're pretty legit, man. I got some low rates.
Aggressive gang over here, baby.
Shout out to State Farm. We out here, gang, gang.
How much it would cost. I told him I could only make an estimate that it might be as high as $1 million or more. He told me that was no problem. He also looked over at Haldeman and repeated the same statement.
This was the first time that a White House staffer had ever contradicted, with criminal consequences, contradict the president on live television.
There was also maintained what was called an enemies list, which was rather extensive and continually being updated.
The idea that the White House draws up a list of enemies and is prepared to use the agencies of government. This is very, very serious, scary stuff.
John Dean talked about a list of enemies that was compiled at the White House. One, Arnold Picker of United Artists, described as a top muskie fundraiser. Second, Alexander Barkin.
Once the enemies list
list was revealed. Daniel Shaw, a CBS News correspondent, is reading off this, and he reads his own name. 17th, Daniel Shaw of the Columbia Broadcasting System in Washington. The note here is a real media enemy. I remember thinking at the time, what is going on? Is this really believable?
You're fully aware, Mr. Dean, of the gravity of the charges you have made under oath against the highest official of our land, the President of the United States. Yes, I am. And being so aware, do you still stand on your statement? Yes, I do. When I'm finishing my testimony for the Senate, I read it and I said, you know, it's my word against Haldeman, Ehrlichman, Colson, Mitchell, and the President.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So a lot to unpack there. If you guys weren't listening. So what this issue is talking about is we're talking about the way this war on drug policy came to be in the first place. So we don't talk about this here in this particular clip, but we do know that, for instance, Nixon went to come up with the drug policy. There was extensive testing done on THC and marijuana and the effects of marijuana on the brain and on the body and overall health. And so the study came back that marijuana wasn't very harmful. In fact, there was a lot of positive health effects to it. And so Nixon was infuriated by that. Instead of going, wow, I guess we need to reassess our policies on drugs, he decided to throw it out and throw the article out and decide to keep pushing with his drug narrative anyway.
Fake news. Right.
The original fake news, right? So now this story kind of addresses that same thing where a former White House aide is saying that no, this war on drug stuff is intentional. They went out of their way to target blacks, to target, as they call it, hippies, who in this case are just progressive people who just don't go along with the Republican narrative. I guess it's kind of similar to Trump, where we have this kind of Trump tax bill where it seems as though a lot of the provisions are attacking people who happen to be in blue states. And so, hey, look, it just so happens that our policies are kind of affecting people who wouldn't vote for me anyway. Oh, wow, what a coincidence. So this is an article written by Tom LoBianco from CNN. And what do you guys think about that, right? So we have a president using his power to target certain people, political adversaries, and to have them thrown in jail, and to criminalize people who you see as political adversaries.
I mean, I don't know. Mike, what do you think?
I mean, stuff like this isn't surprising to me, because usually you see these type of things happen anytime that people can take advantage of, elections, because the easier way to get rid of your opponents is to accuse them of committing a crime. And the way that you have them, committing a crime is by making whatever they do illegal.
Right.
So that's the easiest thing to do. We've talked about this before about net casting, and this is a prime example of net casting. You figure out what a certain group of people do. So hippies and a lot of people that were black in the jazz club smoked weed. Back then they called it reefer. Right. So now
reefer madness.
Yeah. So now you have people of my grandmother's generation that are hanging out in these clubs and such of that nature, and there's jazz clubs and it's down there at the beatniks. So now you're like, okay, that's what they do, and that's what these hippies do. Okay, let's just make weed, a Schedule I controlled substance. Anybody that knows what a Schedule I controlled substance is, that's like what heroin, LSD, mescaline, and mushrooms and things of that nature.
Right,
They're
stuff.
putting, basically the hard stuff that, people throw lives and families away for is what they put weed in. Mm-hmm. So, it's not surprising at all that someone of Nixon's era would use that as a means to do that, because of the Vietnam War that was going on. They needed, people to feel safe. People need answers. People need something. So,
exactly.
I talk about this all the time. It's called demagogy or demagogy, depending on how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
But, basically it's the idea of ruling by emotions and fear. And once you have people's fear and their emotions in check, you can basically pass anything, because, it's hysteria.
Sounds familiar, right? The Nixon campaign in '68 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the article goes on to say. The anti-war left and black people. So just again, like a similar context with here and terrorism, and they're always needing to be some type of scapegoat, ISIS, or there's always some big bad boogeyman around the corner. Yeah. And don't worry, Big Brother's here to protect you from that scary boogeyman. Again, he goes on to say, you understand what I'm saying. We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. So, and this is the same administration that infamously handed out the Southern Strategy. Pat Buchanan and all these Republicans during this time period realized that there were votes to be had by ginning up racial tension. So they called it the Southern Strategy because they were realizing that in the South there was a big market for conservatives who weren't happy with the progressive swing in the 60s and the civil rights movement. So let's play on those people, let's play on those emotions, and let's get some votes out of that. And so this is the same administration, right? And this is the root of the war on drugs. And so we're gonna see in 2017 how those racist ripples still affect us today. But I mean, this guy's willing to say it in black and white that we targeted people that we didn't like, and they were liberals and they were blacks, and that's why the war on drugs is the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely, because you start to see Southern Strategy, has its beginnings, but it's not effective until the early 80s with Reagan. But it starts. But most people know that Ronald Reagan, his announcement about where he was going to run for president happened in Philadelphia, Mississippi, the same place where they found the civil rights workers, Cheney, Warner, and I forget the other guy's name. I always forget his name. I feel horrible. But for argument's sake, there was 3 people right now. I can only remember the 2 or 3 names. But the 3 civil rights workers, that was based upon Mississippi Burning. So,
great film, by the way.
Oh my God, film. Powerful.
So you got these people like that are out there right now. So you got the Reagans and Southern Strategy, and there's also what they call the great realignment, where you have black people switching from Republicans to what we know as the Democratic Party today, and the Democratic Party transforming into what we know today as the Republican Party. So you have a lot of the people that were, that cling to this idea that if you're black or Republican, the Republican Party is the party of Lincoln. It's definitely not. It's not the party of Lincoln. It's more of the party of
Mike Huckabee.
Yeah, Mike Huckabee.
Well, it's Trump's party now, man.
Well, and then you have the infighting in now, because the Republican Party has been split into 3. You have the Trump Republicans, then you have the regular conservative Republicans, and then you have the Trumpkins, right? Then you have the Tea Party guys.
Yeah.
And then
there's some crossover with Tea Party and Trump, I think, right?
Right, but they still have their ideals, where they're actually still
I'm air quoting right now.
they're still what's the word I'm looking for? They're still politicians. Trump isn't a politician yet, so they're not really disruptors. They're just people that are trying to keep things ultra conservative.
Right.
So you see a lot of these things happening now. So a lot of the times that it's easier to pass these race-based initiatives because they're on their fears. These black people are going to come down here on their drugs and rob you and rape you. And most of the time, the people that are scared of black people in the communities are people who don't even have them in their communities.
Right.
And it's
which
funny.
is where the fear comes from, because I don't know any actual black people.
The fear of the unknown.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So you see that a lot in these towns.
Do you think film plays a major role?
Absolutely.
For sure.
Why they...
Sure.
Yeah, media and stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's like for me, like doing music and teaching music more often than not, with most artsy nonprofit kind of stuff, there's a lot of capital that needs to be there. And so ironically, the communities that need it the most don't get it. And so oftentimes the communities that do get access to arts programs are communities that are pretty homogenous, oftentimes culturally. It's usually more affluent. And I often kind of get the impression sometimes that you guys aren't like talking to the kids, sometimes I get a sense that they aren't used to a very multicultural kind of environment. Yeah, like there's a bit like a bubble. There's a bit of a bubble that's going on.
Bubble on both sides.
Absolutely.
I'll do you one better. You know, white people are scared, you know, down in Alabama of black people coming in there. We're scared to go to Alabama.
Nasty.
Right? Like, do you like think about it? Like, if it's you and 4 or 5 black guys in the truck, do you really want to be in the backwoods somewhere down south? On the road trip? Right. Nah, you want to pull over until the daytime and then go across. Like, how many black people really want to do like a cross country trip? Like, and they got to go through like Iowa. Like, you don't want to do that. Even they might be nice people. They might be like, come on in. You'd be like, I don't know, right?
I've watched Get Out. I know exactly where this is going to
Yeah, no.
I don't want any tea.
I've driven through, like, areas like rural New York, not even the South.
Upstate New York?
Yeah, upstate. Anyone from the area knows, like, in terms of, like, upstate New Yorkness,
Syracuse.
Everything that's not Albany, everything surrounding Albany is just, like, trash. And so, so I remember driving up to Canada for a trip and driving through New York, and we stopped in a bathroom in upstate New York. And
was there a hole?
No, man, it smelled like it. It smelled like there was like a hole in the back corner and people were just handling their business there. But all over the walls carved, the urinals, not the urinals, the stalls, right? The walls, right? Carved all over the insides, right? It's just like niggers and Muslims suck cock and kill all Muslims and all black should die and all that kind of crazy like tiki torch shit in the bathroom. I'm like peeing, just like I should really get out of here like now.
This is why this is exactly why the police, and I hate to hijack, but this is why when the police get in trouble in New York City, they send them up there because they have stuff like that written on walls up there. So again, the fear of the unknown. Yeah, so that's the first thing that cops want to do when they get in trouble in New York City. They always want to change the venue to Albany.
Right.
But they get Albany, but they don't get all the people from Albany. They get all the people from the surrounding areas. They're going to be more friendly to them because there's no black people up there, so they're not really sure. So they can use like these tales of superhuman. Oh, I was scared for my life. And like, yeah, they are pretty scary.
Right. So that makes sense.
And that's what happens. And these laws, again, these drug laws come up there, and then they go, these guys from New York City come up here selling these drugs to our people.
Yeah.
That fear.
Yeah. And something else they pointed out real quick before we kind of finish up on that kind of segment is Trump kind of... not Trump, Nixon kind of pointed out something that...
Same nigga.
Yeah, right? Right? And, both their presidencies are going to end the same, right? But, no, like, Nixon kind of toned in on this idea of a silent majority, which is kind of more of this kind of Southern strategy stuff. And you saw Trump do a lot of silent majority kind of dog whistle stuff, kind of implying that, I mean, yeah, of course, most people in the country are racist, right? It's just that, you got a coworker who's black. Right. Your daughter's dating a black guy, so you can't really say anything about it, right? But, I mean, yeah, like secretly when we all get together and, it's Thanksgiving dinner and the boyfriend isn't around, I mean, we all kind of are on the same page here, right? And this kind of like implicit, and this is what, for me, I think it's where it gets dangerous. Because like now we're getting into like rationalization kind of territory. Well,
the Reagan, the Nixon era was more so it wasn't really even the silent majority era. There was more so the disinformation era where they purposely broke up the Black Panthers and had each other's throats and tried to sow seeds of distrust to break up Black Power movements that gained a lot of trust in it. Because we keep going back to Reagan. We got to remember that Reagan and the Black Panthers had a face-off where they stormed the Capitol in Sacramento, and he was the reason why we have the gun laws that we have right now in California where open carry is no longer legal. So that goes back to Reagan again. So Nixon plays a very minor part in the lives of black people where, he starts the war on drugs, but the racial silent majority, again, the Southern strategy, all of that stuff, that comes under Reagan, and that comes into a lot of the war on drugs when the drugs are actually being pumped into the country.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, we get the heroin pumped in, you know, through Burma and Vietnam during the Vietnam era, the war. But most of the drugs that we've seen cause a lot of damage to America as a whole, the cocaine industry, that's under Reagan's watch and willful watch. And now, you know, they've had different
the Oliver North,
yeah, Rick Ross, Blondone, all those people.
Yeah.
So, you know,
man.
a lot of that is
cocaine cowboys.
Yeah, a lot of that cocaine cowboy stuff is Reagan stuff.
Right.
So
for sure.
So you have to really look at that. But again, the seeds of that start with Reagan. With Nixon, and then really explode under the Reagan with the Reagan politics.
Yeah, and you see it come to fruition now with Trump and the people he surrounds himself with.
Right.
Even Jeff Sessions saying that he wants to bring back mandatory minimums and drug sentences. And to specify here, we're talking about non-violent drug offenders. Right. So we're not talking about, you know, the I don't want to say rare, but the not as often as we'd like to portray junkie who, you know, smokes a bunch of crack and, you know, assaults 3 people like in an alley. We're not talking about that. Right. We're talking about someone having a half-finished roach in his you know, compartment at his car, and the cop busting him and giving him a hard time. And now you're an arrested drug offender because you've been known to casually, occasionally have some fun, right?
And
so
and that's the thing right there too. I think that we've gotten to this point where, because we hate Trump and we hate Nixon, that we try to like find parallels, and we put Reagan on not so much the urban community, but America as a whole. If they could, I believe they actually would make another face for Ronald Reagan on Mount Rushmore, because he's that beloved. No, Reagan is like probably one of the most beloved presidents of the entire United States. Like, if they could put him on, if they could make some type of money for him, like, he's like the guy that they like have canonized in the last like 30 years.
Oh yeah.
Every year, I'm a Reagan Republican. I'm a Reagan. And it's like, you know, nobody wants to say I'm a Nixon guy, because Nixon, you know, he's skeevy. But like, for whatever reason, people seem to love like this dim-witted guy. Like, he was a feeble-minded fool.
I'll be a little controversial a little bit. Who else would it be? Like, why do we keep pretending it's a back and forth thing? How many successful conservative presidents have we had? George H.W. Bush? Not really.
No.
George W. Bush? Not really. Excluding Reagan. Who else would we even consider as a successful? Maybe Eisenhower back in the 50s, maybe?
So Reagan is like the MJ of the Republican
Party.
Right,
for lack of a better president.
Well, that's why I said exactly why Trump hijacked his idea of making America great again, because his I believe that I forget Reagan's campaign slogan. I think it was
no means no.
That's Nancy Reagan. I believe that Ronald Reagan was a new day. I believe that was what he ran into.
I don't remember.
I think so. I mean, this is my history talking. So like, I believe that his campaign was a new day. Obviously, Make America Great Again harkens back to a new day. That's what Reagan was running on. This is a new day where we're not going to say hey to the criminals, and then, you know, like, basically he played upon fears again that America was really run by welfare queens and people that were on.
It's that John Wayne shit. The sheriff is back in town.
Yeah,
the cops back on the beat.
A new sheriff's in town.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You have a lot of them running like things are historically low, but if there's not a problem, you have to create outrage somewhere, even if there isn't there. If you talk about it more so, and you put a magnifying glass on it, people think that the problem still exists when it really doesn't.
Right.
And, you know, I see that a lot. And, you know, the heroin epidemic that's going on today, I see that a lot as well. It's an epidemic, but people are not talking about meth. And meth is still way worse than opioid crisis, because the reason no one talks about meth is because meth is totally illegal. Opioids are not totally illegal. There's some that they're a controlled substance.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
So they're not going to let you talk too bad about opioids, because people, these pharmaceutical companies have redeeming value. You understand? Like, weed has redeeming values. Marijuana, I should say, not weed. Marijuana has redeeming values. Opioids have redeeming values. They do. They've been used in you know, China for years, thousands of years as, you know, pain relievers and such. And people got, you know, an opioid dens. But that's a whole other situation for that.
Right.
But there's no redeeming qualities about methamphetamines. No.
Right.
It's poisonous. It's dangerous. Like, you know, like people cook it with battery acid and shit, you know. So you've seen Breaking Bad. So, you know.
Right.
So that's why I think that we haven't made the switch to really stop the opioid addiction, because we can't, because that's going to cause a lot of people have money invested in these pharmaceutical companies. You have your 401ks that trade on the New York stock market. You have your
we're gonna talk about some of that
you have
a little bit later.
You have a lot of things tied into that. So therefore, if you start really restricting it and their quarterly profits start going down, middle America, Main Street America meet again, and then all of a sudden your retirement that's funded into this stuff is starting to work. So then people start wondering, my retirement or some kid overdosing? Sorry, kid, I gotta retire.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason why, if I could add this too, is where there is this hard push to increase more jails and you know, facilities around these areas, because I really, based on our conversation from last time when we talked about, you know, a lot of what was it? We were talking about immigration, right?
Right.
And how most, you know, people that are living out in other countries who are the best talent would love to come to America to express not only their views but also their creativity. And being that the country, and I'm thinking the president may understand that as well, that I think for us who are born and raised here, I don't think there's a strong value to try to help the best and the brightest who was born in America. I think it's just the attention is more to invite people who think of us as like the creme of la creme.
Yeah, the trendsetters.
And come over here, and then they could.
It's important that we stay that way too.
So
yeah.
So when you have, if you have a country that doesn't care about its youth, and it doesn't care about its elderly, right? So then what they're gonna do is just, they know the youth is gonna go wild, so they want to create these jails, and that's why I would imagine that these private prisons are the ones that are feeding these politicians.
Yeah, the lobbyist issue is.
You also have to remember that America is not for the best. It's not. It says, give me your tired, you're meek, and you're poor, right? Because that's the whole purpose of America, is that how many people do you know, oh, I have a 4th grade education, and they're like millionaires, right? Because that's not America. America is about, if you got to hustle and you got a good idea, it doesn't matter how much money you had, how much education you had, if you're better than somebody else. That's the ideal. We know that's not the truth, but that's the idea that's sold. You know, because we timeless study after timeless study has shown that people from affluent families stay affluent, and people from poor families, it takes a long time to break generational poverty. Unless, you know, something drastic happens, a family member dies and leaves you like a life insurance policy or something like that, or you get a house left to you, win the lottery, become a professional athlete, or music. Drastic life changes. Nothing that the average person could ever hope to attain. Like, that's stuff that you wish upon a star. Please let somebody, and I know it's kind of morbid to say, but please let a family member I don't know just leave me some money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Great aunt Bertha.
Your great aunt on whatever side left you $15,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. But you know, and
don't tell Sally Mae.
Right. That's not conversation that we have in the African American community. Like, we don't talk about, oh, I'm in such and such will, or I'm going to be inherited, I'm taking this and that and the third. Sure. Whereas in a lot of, not even rich families, but well-to-do, they're not wealthy, but they're well-to-do. They're like, you know, if anything should happen, I'm going to be the one to take over Dad's store, or I'm taking over my Uncle Joe's store. You know, they have things in place, and they talk about this openly. That way there's a transfer. But meanwhile, we're not set to that. So that's why it goes to, again, to like this war on drugs, because that was our way of getting out of it. And I know some people listen like, you know, a tangent, but to tie that back in is like, that was your way to get from that wrong to the next wrong. Because again, like I said, you had extreme circumstances. So if you could sell drugs and you can go from making $50 a week. Remember, this is back in the 80s. My parents told me they used to make $2.25 an hour minimum wage or something crazy like that.
Shit.
This is back in the early 80s. Yeah, so, you know, this is back in the early 80s. So if you're a guy working at McDonald's, you're making, you know, $100 a week or something like that, you know, with overtime. And then you got somebody saying, yo, you can make $1,000 a day.
This, cooking this,
right?
Scribbing out the
so
pot.
a lot of people were like, "Yo, F this McDonald's stuff. I
Right.
want to do this. I want to do that." So therefore, you make it illegal, then you make the market, which they did, and then they get people hooked on the market. So people get hooked on the money, and people get hooked on the drugs. So either way, they're gonna catch you because it's hard to walk away from $1,000 a day, and that's starting, right? There's people that are making $30,000, $40,000 a week. Rick Ross is making $1 million a day. So how the hell can you expect to walk away from that?
Right.
So they know they're gonna catch you. So people always talk about the drug dealers. Money is very addictive, especially when you're making money like that and you actually see it. And if you go to work and it's in your bank account, you don't really see it.
Right.
It's a different thing to have $100,000 in the bank, and it's another thing to have $100,000 in a shoebox.
Right.
In your hand. You're looking at it.
A tangible thing.
Yeah, man.
Because, you have that power versus like that digital. You can't really, touch.
Like,
right.
I'm not trying to start on the radio, but like, what's the most like you've ever held in your hand, and how did that make you feel when you had that type of money in your hand?
Not a huge amount of money, but I will say the biggest. I see your point. The biggest block of cash I had in my hand felt good.
Yeah.
I've actually felt like 10 grand in my hand. Like, I had like 10 bands in my hand at the bank.
Yeah.
And I cashed a check, and it was crazy. And I cashed it, and they're like, "Here you go," and they counted it out to me. And I'm looking at this shit like, "Yo."
You feel like you didn't deserve it.
No, I feel like I deserved it. No.
Got that infinity
No,
stuff.
but the people around you didn't get that vibe from the bank.
Oh,
nah.
They saw who wrote me the check, so they kind of figured it out.
Okay.
It was like, I'll tell you, it's when I got into my car accident. So I had, I had my, that's another part of the settlement I had. So when I had that in my hand, it was like, whoa. And you never, like I said, you hear $10,000, it doesn't seem like a lot when you talk about it, but when you see 10 grand in your hand and you got to count it out to you, and you see nothing but 50s and 100s, and it's not that many hundreds,
right?
But it's still enough.
Yeah. Did you go to 35 after that?
Nah.
Going to the pyramid.
How at Erykah Badu.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, so that's an addictive feeling, and once you have that, I said, yo, I want to be in a predicament where I could be able to have this type of money in my hand at any given time, and then that shit is like, it's addictive. Right. And so you can understand where people come from, wanting to do that. And then prior to that, when I was in high school, I used to do a lot of cash business stuff. I won't say what I did. I didn't sell drugs, but I did a lot of hustling things, and I always had
LimeWire.
Allegedly.
Nah. Those days are way behind me. But basically the point of the matter was, I always stayed with bread, and I got addicted to that money and having a wad of cash on me. It's a feeling that you can't describe. So I just think that these wars are very strategically set up, because there's so little. There's food deserts. There's job deserts in the neighborhoods.
Right,
so they set the trap for you where you're like, yo, I gotta have these bands, but there's no money around here, so there's nothing else to do but to sell drugs. And I know it's a cop out. Some people say, oh, deal with this and that and the third. You can't work at McDonald's because there's no McDonald's there. There's no supermarkets there, so you
There's
can't.
no education, so
Right.
it's not even like you can.
But like in the
pull-
burbs,
right.
you can go, okay, if you live in the suburbs, there's really no reason for you to sell drugs, because there's literally tons of places to work after school. Like you can go work at ShopRite.
Panera
Did you work
Bread.
at ShopRite?
Nah, I worked at Boston Market.
Boston Market, right.
Yeah.
He got a job at Boston Market.
Yeah.
My friends worked at Pathmark. Some people worked at Costco, BJ's.
Yeah.
And we bagged up groceries after school.
Dots.
Yeah.
Dots,
Burger King.
the movie theater. You know, a lot of those places don't exist in urban neighborhoods. They're lucky to have a movie theater. A movie theater might be, I don't know. If you think about Newark, the only movie theater that really was around was
Magic Johnson.
the one in Elizabeth.
The AMC.
Yeah, that's everybody in that area goes there. That's their nice movie theater.
Wow.
Right? We had a bunch. We had Menlo, and then we had one at the block from like 2 miles up the road.
For one.
East Brunswick or
East
Plainfield.
Brunswick. No one in New Brunswick.
Yeah.
That was a Lowe's.
Regal.
Yeah, the Lowe's. And
Then
then
there was a Regal right there in
South
Piscataway.
Brunswick, too.
Right, that close. But maybe a lot of people in Newark had to go on 22 to go to this town, that town. Maybe they didn't have it there.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And these are places that hire people.
Right.
The malls. There's no mall in Newark.
Right.
There isn't. You got to go to either Short Hills or you got to go to Jersey Gardens.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Never.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So there's places that have no, unless you work at a mom and pop store, or they hire you at a bodega or a little supermarket. There's no chain restaurants, no chain places like that to hire you.
And most likely they're probably gonna hire family, friends. They're not gonna hire
nepotism.
you.
And then they ask what high school you went to when you fill out these applications,
Right.
and then they know, oh, you go to Eastside High, oh, you go to Shabazz, oh, you go here. Nah, we're not hiring you out of that. So
your brand recognition, so which would explain why so many people would most likely, drop out of school or want to be transferred out of the school, because they know that I live in a community. The school's supposed to, give you enough information where you could uplift the community. But if you see like your school's all fucked up, what do you think your community think of you? So then you become your environment,
And it gets worse, guys.
Oh, what happens?
U.S. Attorney.
Sessions.
Yep. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Ridiculously racist person, and we'll probably talk about that later.
I think he's just misunderstood. I don't think he's really that
May
racist.
revive harsh punishments for low-level drug crimes. A change that would overturn an Obama-era decision from then Attorney General Eric Holder, who instructed federal prosecutors to avoid excessive mandatory minimum sentences for non-violent drug offenses.
Right.
Critics have blasted Sessions for guaranteeing that more people will be locked up for drug offenses in America's federal prisons.
I think he's just being tied into like the criminal justice system. I really feel as if like that's just a big business.
Oh, for sure, yeah. At least 2.3 million people are incarcerated in the U.S., and 1 in 5 are locked up for drug offenses. So that's 1 in 5 of our super overinflated. So the 1 in 5, I'm assuming they're talking about drug offenses in general. They're not really specifying non-violence. They probably mean just drug charges in general. Okay. So now we finally got a little bit of a break with Obama. We got some of the stuff pulled back. We got some pardons for non-violent drug offenses. And so here we go. We get a Republican president, right back in the fire. Right back in the fire. There's do you think Hillary would have signed off on this?
Absolutely, she would have. Her husband signed over the 3 strikes law.
Yeah.
I really don't think it has anything to do so much with the Republican Party, more so than it has to do with Donald Trump trying to undo everything Obama's done. Like no other Republican candidate wanted to undo Obama as much as Donald Trump did, which is why he won, because he tapped into that. Oh, look at what he's doing.
Just blame it on the black guy.
Yeah. Right. It's not even so much blaming it on the black guy.
They want to pretend he didn't do well.
They want to pretend. Well, no, they're not pretending he didn't do well because he's making things equal. Remember, if you have 10 and now I'm telling you I'm out of your 10, I got to take 2. You're not happy losing those 2 when I had nothing. You understand? Even though you still have 8. People act like children, like. Little kids are like that. They'll have everything. And if you ask them, hey, give them that one toy. I want that toy.
Right.
You wasn't missing that toy. Like, you had all the toys. Give somebody else. We're just asking for 1 or 2.
Right.
You can't do it all at once, but he wants you to have nothing. And that's the thing. Like, Obama gave people health care. He gave people hope. And he gave a lot of other people chances to do things. And Trump is not looking to share.
Right.
He's not a person. Like, he didn't become a billionaire by sharing. Like that's just not what he does. It's not in his nature. It's mine. That's what he's about. He's about destroying competition and destroying people. That's why he wants to destroy. That's why people say he's petty. It's not so much he's petty. That's just the mindset of a businessman. If you don't, you got a
bad businessman. Yeah.
No, I mean he's a great businessman on paper.
He's got 6 bankruptcies.
No. This is what I'm saying. On paper, he's a great businessman, not in reality. But what I'm saying is he has the mentality of a businessman. Where he can say, "I want to destroy you." If 50 Cent was, like, if he was a rapper, he would be 50 Cent.
Yeah.
Bankruptcy and all, right? Think about that.
Right.
But like he's destroyed his competition. Like there's no one who said I went head up against Trump and won. Who can you name?
The NFL.
Kind of, sorta. He did win, but he was kind of a dick. But he went up against them, and he won.
I was gonna say Rosie O'Donnell.
When's the last thing you see Rosie O'Donnell do?
Yeah, that's why I was like, maybe not. No, but Trump looks bad though.
He looks bad, but the guy still is around.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's a business. Like he's well aware. Like we can say all these things about him. He's very aware of his brand and what he is and who he is. And he doesn't he has people around him that if it was someone else, it would be the end of him.
Oh yeah.
The man Harvey, he's been accused of the same shit as Harvey Weinstein, and people still love him. Harvey Weinstein is finished.
Right.
And the funny thing is the tape.
We have him on camera.
Right. Like the tape is the thing that really put the Weinstein thing to sleep. But we have the same type of shit with Trump.
I can do whatever I want. I can grab my pussy, right? And we
beautiful is a magnet. Billy Bush, Donald scores again. He's in there high-fiving him and shit.
And then you see him like all like handsy with the female reporter.
Right.
Actually,
Give the Donald a hug.
I shouldn't even say female because female right now is a word that people
a
woman reporter. But
Jeez,
you know,
this is the feminine movement. I swear.
Hey, I'm not.
That was like, nah, I ain't co-signing that shit.
For the record,
the Views Express was.
Yeah, right. It's send your angry emails to that guy. That
at
was
Wally Wall Street.
Send all your emails.
Yeah, right. We had nothing to do with that. We didn't plan that.
Y'all shut that shit down real quick.
That was That was off the script. No, that was.
Nah, but here's the thing. I was listening to a lot of Young Jeezy this morning. I don't know why, but I just felt like the mood to listen to Young Jeezy.
Because of your hyper toxic masculinity. All right, let me stop.
Right. Yeah, say that shit now in front of CTE. See what they do to you.
Yeah,
the
right.
real CTE. Yeah, right? So one of the things I picked up on is that, like, I'm Donald Trump in a white tee and a white one. The conversation is money, nigga. You want some? And I'm like, we've been putting on Donald Trump subconsciously.
Donald Trump,
let me in now. Let me in now.
Yeah.
Bill Gates, Donald Trump, let me in.
And I'm saying,
people liked him, man. People
like,
liked Trump for the longest time.
Where did we go wrong? Where did he go wrong?
After he attacked
Obama?
It's like
President Obama?
It's like, yes, the Obama thing for sure, but I think it's kind of like, it's like when you talk to your boss and he's like pretty cool in short dose, like small doses, but then when you hang out with him for like an hour and a half, you're like, God, this sucks. Like, this is uncomfortable. Like, I think it was like that. Like, I feel like the black community, we saw Trump in small little spurts in this movie and that movie, just being successful, and we like to right, people like to be seen next to success, right? Like, in general, right? So, like, across the board. So he was a successful person, and he came off with that privilege and that success, and people naturally kind of want to be around that.
You know why black people didn't mind him so much? He was a Democrat.
That helped too.
Right.
I think so.
Clinton and all that before the 90s, he was a very, very powerful Democratic donor. But, a lot of people, and that also came from our ignorance, because the social media era wasn't around to where we could look back and say, how the hell did we let him railroad to Central Park 5 and pull out a full-page interview and call for the death of these young black men with hardly any evidence that was, and it shows you how...
And not apologize when he was proven wrong.
Never apologize, but it shows you his thoughts upon the criminal justice system if you ever get caught up. Like, he doesn't care about facts. He doesn't care about that. He just wants blood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he reacts. And, that's a really dangerous thing, that these young men were deprived of their liberties, their just due, their, habeas corpus. Everything you could think about, they were denied. And anything, everything.
Right.
Like, these men were railroaded, and then this guy gets on television, and he gets on the New York Times and purchases it. And that's very expensive. Like, newspapers aren't what they are now. Like, newspapers are cheap because no one reads those shits anymore. Like, it's like, who writes for a newspaper anymore? No one cares.
Right. Failing New York Times.
Right. But back in those days, that's what you read. Internet wasn't out then. Yeah. So he spent a big chunk of his own money, trying to. So he deliberately poisoned the jury pool. Mm-hmm. So where are they gonna go? Remember I said that to you before, that you can't go up to Albany.
Right.
So now, what are these black guys gonna do? Get a change of venue? Where are they gonna go? They're gonna go to Albany. They're gonna go to Queens. They gotta. He's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
One of the most powerful men besides the mayor in your city has put a target on your back. You think that he can't poison the potential jury pool? So that's why I think he went wrong. But we didn't really pay any attention to it because we were too busy looking at the shiny buildings. Like, I was in New York today looking at Trump Place over on 70-something Street, right? I forgot, whatever, on the west side, because I had to drop somebody off at the boats. But the harbor, you can see right there, and you see gold building. Wow.
Yeah.
So you get enamored with that, right? You don't care whose name is on that.
Not if you go to Atlantic City.
Why would that deter us from liking the guy? How many of us idolize ex-slave owners in our lives?
Right.
And we go to institutions named after these slave owners and stuff.
There is a bit of a Stockholm syndrome.
Sure.
Like, and it's funny because it's like my time in the South was crazy interesting because it's like as a black man living in the South, but at the same time, there's all this beautiful jazz and blues music that literally would not exist if not for the terrible shit that went on down there.
Pain.
And so it's I was talking to my mentors at the time, Dom Flemons from the Chocolate Drops, about that. He plays tenor.
Is it Chocolate Drop?
The Carolina Chocolate Drops. They're a Grammy Award-winning black folk music group. They do rural Southern like roots music, right? And so literally our music, our traditional very American music.
Yeah.
And so he played banjo and guitar and stuff like that. And so at the time, I had an issue with banjo. I was like, man, banjo, that's country shit, this and that. And
hours.
and so he had to sit me
Bluegrass
down.
is hours.
Yeah, and so he had to sit me down and explain that no, this is an African instrument, and in the context and the Stephen Foster, Oh Susanna type shit. And so basically, they kind of took our stuff and kind of sarcastically, making fun of it, started marketing that music to them. And then it turns out this shit is actually pretty fun, so they started liking it. And so ironically, they started rolling with it. Just like, actually, this is pretty fun. And so, but they were able to twist the narrative that we were ashamed of our own music and our own culture. Wow. And so we see the banjo and we look down on the banjo. We see jazz, we look down on jazz. You know, we look down on rock and roll. We look down on the blues.
And to go back,
but that's our shit.
But but to go back to Old Susanna, you know what the song's about? That's one of the most racist songs ever written.
I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knees.
Yeah.
Like these are the lyrics, and
like you say, I shot 2 niggas in the next one. They cleaned it up. But he talks about shooting, killing niggas on the record, and not niggas, no niggers, ERS. You know,
hard R.
Yeah, I mean, and this is shit that you grew up watching.
A Scarlet R.
But think about it, right? This is shit that you grew up watching. Bugs Bunny playing his banjo, right? Oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me. And you like little kids, hey, nah, this is real.
Yeah.
So maybe that was just part of it.
Of course it was, bro.
Yeah.
Because they, like I said, they stole our music, and then if you think about it, it's called the blues.
Yeah.
Like somebody says, I'm feeling blue. Like a whole genre of music was created off the pain,
and that was stolen by the Rolling Stones and all of those.
But that was later on. But the point of the matter is, these people were hurt. Like white people couldn't sing the blues because they didn't have nothing to sing about because you didn't have the blues. It's like, oh, it's gonna be all right. No, it's not. Oh, yeah. You're right. For you, it's not. Yeah. You lived in a constant era of, perpetual fear and violence, and any day could be your last if you look someone in the eye, if you say the wrong word. Right. Imagine
if you stop
having a conversation with somebody. You're 40 years old, and you always feel like this person is your father, but this person is 25 years old. Let's say.
Boy.
And they call you boy, and you can't look them in the eye, and you got to choose your words carefully and not come off as a smart person or not come off as a person that's flippant. You got to play the dual role. That's a very hard life to live, to be, constantly.
How do you hold your head up high in that situation?
Right. And it's not even so much being dehumanized; it's more so being emasculated. And I don't mean emasculate as it making you feel as a female. I mean emasculate as it makes you feel like you're an adolescent.
Right.
Like you're not all stages, no matter what.
You're perpetual adolescent. Yeah. Because I want to make that clear that I'm not saying because a lot of people think emasculating somebody means making them a woman and making them weak. No, I don't mean that at all.
But it's okay. It's a safe space.
But I have to clear that up because people listen to that. I mean, the older you get, the more technically masculine you get because you have more hormones than you were as a child. Right. So imagine being
you've been a man longer technically, right?
So you've gone through puberty and you're technically a man, but you still have to be a boy trapped in a man's body.
But not if you identify as a woman.
Yo, I'm not going there with you.
Yeah. I don't know why you got to do that.
I'm not doing that with you, man.
Another tripwire. You
better watch out. Yeah. No, but I see your point, and I agree.
Boy, yeah, they're not gonna be in front of my house, man, picketing this.
Yeah, right.
What you're saying, Mike?
According to U.S. Sentencing Commission data between 1984 and 2001, just before the initiation of the Anti-Drug Abuse Act and the 15 years directly after, there was an overt and growing disparity in how minorities were incarcerated and the length and sentences they received. Despite the fact that studies have shown that white and black people use drugs at similar rates, black men are reportedly 10 times likelier to receive a prison sentence for drug abuse. And so the U.S. Sentencing Commission also found that the average sentences for crack came out to be 15 months longer than for meth and 81 months longer than for heroin.
Right.
This is directly attributed to the existence of 5 and 10-year mandatory minimum sentences that come with crack charges, and not other drug offenses. So that last part indicating that they are specifically targeting crack. What other reason do they have to specifically target crack and not methamphetamines, which is just as harmful to the body, or not cocaine, for example, which is harmful to the body but has a different clientele?
Why? Because we, again, black people, let this happen to us. It's not, you can't, I'm not gonna let black people off the hook for this, because this actually comes from the baby boomer generation. It's their fault. Because what happened? No, honestly,
Millennials versus baby boomers.
Because the boomers, what happened was, they were too busy marching and they didn't watch their children. And then the children grew up really without them being around, because they, like I said, they were involved in a lot of things. And I'm not knocking what they were doing. They were doing the good thing, but certain things happen. You can't be everywhere at once. So something has to get neglected. Unfortunately, it was the children. Children of the future. So you had men and women outside fighting, and you had no man or no women in the house watching these children, and they grew up wild. So when these kids started getting out of control, uncontrollable, start crack, older people started getting scared. These young niggas is going crazy. Help us, help us, help us. Please, oh, help us. So then, when they came in, they said, all right, we're going to help you. We're going to give them this, that, and the third. And they're like, yeah, because we got to get these crackheads off the street. Meanwhile, they don't understand that they're letting them practice on, their children. But that was a short fix, because, that was kind of similar to, like, them going to the slave master. Help me, master. I can't control my brothers and sisters. So now you go to the slave master, they got to whip you.
Right.
So now they're whipping us now. But to go back to what you're saying before with the Republican Party, Rand Paul's father, Ron Paul, he was totally against these laws and wanted the people out of it because it costs us money. This is a non-Republican issue, because
he's a libertarian, to be fair.
He's a libertarian, but it's still, at the core of it, not a Republican thing, because the Republicans don't believe in a larger federal government.
In theory.
That's what I'm saying to you, in theory.
Yeah.
So, therefore, if they're really Republicans, that's why nobody knows what a Republican is, no one knows what a Democrat is. Because if they believed in Republicanism, they would believe in a shorter, in a smaller government. They wouldn't be expanding federal programs. Federal programs are what? Jails.
Yeah.
It's a jail.
Yeah.
So, like, that's under the federal budget. Leavenworth is a federally controlled thing. So, therefore, they had to construct, hire, construction workers, hire, guards. And then there's people in towns that live off these federal prisons because they're guaranteed to always have a job.
Yeah, but we've seen this hypocrisy from conservatives for a long time, where it's like they're against regulation when it comes to healthcare, or making sure there's not lead in your water, or that the air is breathable. But they love to tell you where you can have sex, when, with how many people, with who, for how long. They love to tell you what toys are okay, what toys aren't allowed, water sports, yes or no, kink list, you gotta check out, so it's like they have no problem checking in and telling you when you can have it.
Wasn't you?
What?
So you was at Exotica this week.
That convention life.
Shout out to Expo Center.
I didn't go this year.
Yeah, this year. Yeah. A little tied up. Hands were a little tied up.
Shout out to Maserati.
Yeah, right. But yeah. So it's like, you know, I don't understand. I think part of this is the two-party system breaking down. I think we're seeing that.
It's good. I'm glad.
Right, tiny bits, tiny hints here and there. I think the two-party system is breaking down. I think the Tea Party movement was the beginning of like this Republican civil war that's going on. And I think this Bernie Sanders, Keith Ellison versus DNC establishment kind of civil war is kind of, you know, we have the most powerful politician in the country in Bernie Sanders, but the Democratic Party doesn't know which direction to go in. Go in Bernie's way. He's it's working.
I personally believe that the two-party system is here to stay because people don't like change and people are ignorant and they like things the way they always will be and the way they always have been. And because to think about it, it's kind of like that girlfriend that you had or that girl that you liked, right? That lists all the qualities that you want, and then you go, I'm here. You're good as a friend. You're just not doing it for me. And then she keeps going back to the same assholes and then crying to you about how this guy, and then the guy after him, and the guy after him, and the guy after him. And you're still there with all the qualifications. And then finally you
That's
say,
the Green Party.
and then you finally go,
friend zone.
Then you finally go, what? Yeah, I don't want to hear about another guy. Leave me the hell alone. And that's what happens to us as people that are like that. We get disenfranchised. We say, you know what? I don't want you. Don't ask me for no more fucking votes. I'm not voting for nothing else because every time I vote for you, you don't do anything for me. Then you get disenfranchised. You don't vote.
Right.
And then nothing ever changes. But then what happens? It's the same sick cycle. So now you're angry. They're angry. Everybody's angry because nothing's wrong. But we do nothing to change it. But we could have done it when we voted for a third-party candidate. But nobody has the balls enough to vote for it. The last viable third-party candidate that we had that was really polling high was Ross Perot in 92. The Republicans purposely and the Democrats purposely worked together to keep a third person off of television.
Yeah.
There's no reason why I should have to poll. And this is why I voted for Jill Stein, because I knew Jill Stein wasn't going to win the presidency. However, what I did vote for her was because I believe, I could be mistaken, that you had to poll at 4% nationally. Maybe 4% and maybe 10%. I know it's a huge difference in percentage points.
I remember
but it's whatever it was, that if she gets the minimum amount, her party will be eligible to go. Because
that's a fucked up rule.
Right. Because so they never give two people. So CNN has all these people watching TV, and they can only have two people on TV. Why?
Right.
Why is it Jill Stein on TV? Why isn't what's his name? What's the other guy's name that was running this year? I forget his name.
Johnson.
Oh, the
Gary
Johnson.
Yeah. No, Gary Johnson. Why is Gary Johnson not on that stage? Why is Jill Stein not there? Why are other people on that stage? I don't want to see Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. They're not the only people out there.
Right. I think that's part of the reason why they would say some shit like, oh, he didn't know what Aleppo was. I think that's just part of his probably marketing strategy to get attention from these media groups. Because if he's saying all the right shit that clicks, they're not going to pay attention. But if he fucks up, oh, look at this third party guy. He doesn't know politics.
I think it's kind of the opposite. I think they use that as an excuse not to put him on the air. Like, see, this is why we don't put him on TV. He's not serious enough.
Right.
He doesn't even know Aleppo. Does Trump know Aleppo is the capital of Syria?
No.
Does anyone think Trump seriously knows the capital of Syria?
So, I'll do you one better. So if they feel that way about these candidates, are they really going to, they really hype up social media a lot more? People put too much emphasis on social media. Like, I think we make it more like nothing's going to beat the radio. Nothing's going to beat commercials. Nothing's going to beat CNN and MSNBC and Fox News. Like, Facebook is cool, but people just post any and every dumb thing they can post. So I think that's going to be the downfall of Facebook. Like how the downfall of MySpace was the people doing poor coding on the website and then it kept crashing. Remember how annoying that used to be?
Yeah.
It's getting to that point right now where every fucking time I go on Facebook, and I hate to curse like that, but it makes me annoyed. Every time I go on Facebook, and I look at a damn article, I have to Google that article 3 times to make sure that what I'm reading is real. And I have to go double check and make sure it's on CNN, MSNBC, and not on hustlers.net.
Yeah, real facts with the X.com.
And I hate to get, I hate to give them free publicity. Never go to that Hustlers website or TMZ not TMZ, whatever, World Star TMZ. That's stupid. Come on, World Star TMZ. That's where you get your news from.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, but I will have to add to this that I think that the social media part of it is.
Did you hear Trump got into a fist fight with Chuck Schumer on World Star?
Yeah, right.
No, but listen,
On World Star TMZ?
No, but what's the got dig into a fist fight yesterday? Got his ass whipped. Rand Paul.
Rand Paul?
At his house. Yeah.
At his house. He got beat up in his own
He
home?
got beat up at his house. Dude got charged with 4th-degree battery yesterday.
He's like,
At
no,
his
I can
house.
never walk through my living room again. Look at his ass whooping every time.
Yo, for real.
Every time I try to get some cereal
so
and shit.
they did an investigation, right, leading into like what's going on with the Hillary and the Russia thing, and to see how
Russia.
far. So check this out. It appears that like the Russian government may have invested about $120,000 or $30,000, right, to have these people from Russia or employees or consultants to just pretend like they're Americans and to share fake news about Hillary Clinton. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton is knocking on doors trying to get donors from like these multimillionaires, generating close to millions of dollars, right? And she still loses. So what does that tell you? It tells you that social media is here to stay, and social media is not only cheap, right? As far as like if you're inspiring politician. I know November 7th is around the corner. A lot of politicians are like running for president or running for some sort of like position in my town, and I don't know who they are because I don't have time to be at home look for whatever.
That's another thing. Real side note, Democrats, we have to get better at state politics. We have to get better at, you know, who's the comptroller, who's the governor, because Republicans vote on those. Man.
Yeah.
Republicans are sweeping the board in terms of like governors and more
They
local.
Why are
exactly.
we so? But I hear you saying Democrats.
Yeah.
Why are we as black people so
caught up in the Democratic Party?
Yeah. Why are we so loyal to them?
I understand that,
Why?
but what's the option? The Republican Party?
Absolutely not. I just told you the option. The third party, brother.
I don't even think it's just. Then that's
They
just,
don't do right
That's
by
just
us.
really then we're
I
doing
don't disagree.
I think then we'll be doing the same thing with the Democrat Party. I think honestly we just got to split it 33, 33, 34. Give that 34 to whoever sounds much better to us.
But that's the issue I have with being a black voter in this country is that what ends up happening. I would love to be able to vote interest over identity, but
You can't when you're
we
black.
can't. You can't do it because most black people are in fact conservatives.
Very much so.
Most black people in this country are Christians. Most black people in this country, and I hate to generalize, but again, don't believe in same-sex marriage. That's as national polling. So a lot of them don't believe in that. A lot of them don't believe in what do you call it? A lot of other I can't even get my thoughts straight. So they don't believe in same-sex marriage. They don't believe in they're Christian. Don't believe in same-sex marriage. They don't believe in teaching sex ed in school. They want to do like a lot of abstinence and stuff like that in a lot of these highly religious places. Then they also but the thing that they are in favor of are things of the nature that should be enforced anyway, like liberty ideas, like fair housing and such of that nature. And conservatives should support that because that's not something that should be invoked. Is like discrimination. That's part of the thing. But for the most part, black people would love to be conservative Republicans, but they get tossed out of that Republican Party because these people support Klan members. They support skinheads. They support white supremacy, and then they leave a whole bunch of people on the table that are like, oh well, I gotta vote for these Democrats, and what do the Democrats offer us? Super predators.
Right.
The hardest person ever on black people was Bill Clinton.
Right. I think the only way
right.
that the Republican Party could earn the full trust and dedication, towards our people, to the black communities, if they really start zeroing in on polygamy.
Sister wives. We're going sister wives.
Okay, we're not even going sister wives, brother. Because think about it. Out of Utah, they're not even rocking with that, right?
Yeah. They tried it.
Orrin Hatch out there.
Yeah.
So perfect timing, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you later. Backdrop. So I think I don't know. I just feel.
So think about it, right? So if we got we are not happy with how the Democrats locked us up, and we're not happy about how the conservative Republicans get rid of us. we're stuck. Yet we still vote these people in, and we go, sorry, Jill Stein, who also ran with a black man as her running mate.
He was really aggressive though, like as far as some of the
But
stuff
to be
he's
fair, I didn't
projecting.
even see that.
Yeah, but he wanted he was for reparations.
Yeah.
Which could be a little controversial.
Right.
But guess what? We should have some type of reparations. It doesn't have to be $1 million a black person. Absolutely not. No, but it could be.
I prefer that.
It could be a quarter. It could be a quarter mil. I'll take a quarter.
It could be something as simple.
Give me
as
this 10,000.
How about this? How about if you could prove that you come from a family that you're not an immigrant, that you're an American citizen,
right?
That can prove that you're a descendant of a slave, you get a free college education. If you can prove that, if you're an American citizen,
that's
you can
going to be
prove
hard
that.
to prove.
No, it's not. Let me tell you something, bro. Slave owners kept meticulous records. They know what slave came, where he went, and everything else. Slavery was very meticulous.
That's
like you
true,
can go
'cause
back there.
it's like pride.
They found books.
I was gonna say where it went because it's considered it.
Those books, as a historian, they have books where they show this boat docked, this African came in here, African sold as they called you bucks. African buck named Tom sold this and that. Tom went to this family, and then they gave him the town. His name is Tom Green now because he's owned by the Green family. That's how they found out Larry David's family owned slaves.
Wow.
So just like they found out Larry David's family owned slaves, they can find out the slave children that man bore, that the children that he helped bore for other women on there, and where those children went and how they go, and then they can find that out very easily.
That's true. With Ancestry.com and all that.
Forget Ancestry.com with the records.
Or suggest.
We have actual records here in the United States. Like, people don't understand, if you really want to do your family tree, you're not going to get Alex Haley. The Alex Haley thing is kind of a myth. I don't believe that he went all the way back to Kunta Kinte. That's another story for another day. But I personally believe that story was kind of made up because no black person in the history of black people besides Alex Haley has ever traced their people back since then. And he did that before.
Really? He said he was traced to Kunta Kinte?
That's what the
that's
story
the
said.
roots,
That's the roots, right? He started from square one, from Kunta Kinte to here.
Yeah.
He found that. Nobody else found that.
He probably took some liberties here and there.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Filled in some gaps.
Right. But no one's going to call him out on it because it made you feel horrible watching Kunta Kinte get whipped into Toby, right?
Yeah.
So no one's going to challenge that. But now, 30 years later, we're like, all right, my man, how the hell did you... How are you the only one to ever find that?
Right.
But besides that, what I'm saying is you can find out if you were an actual slave, who your slave owner was, how you got here, you can find that out. And then they can prove that, and you should be able to get something for free. You should. Sure. Because there's no way that 4 million people died in the Holocaust. All right? 4 to 10. Actually, they said 4 to 10. And then they were able to track down survivors, and people were affected by that in Germany, and they were all paid. That's millions of people, right?
Yeah.
So they could easily do that for... How many black people live here in America? With 13% of the population, so give or take 30 million, and then some of us aren't from here, all of it. So really, like, American black people, it's probably like, I don't know, 10 million pure, like, American black people that have been here since the 1700s, 1800s that can trace back.
Right.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about the Native American issue. Like, I was wondering, like, now we're talking about like reparations and shit. But like, real quick, like I wonder where do we find that? Like, where does that fit in? Like, because officially, like, America's apologized to the Native community, the indigenous community,
right.
And so, and like people like to say, oh well, they have casinos, but that's not real.
And a gazebo.
That's not real reparations. Like. That's still a situation where money's being concentrated at the top, and it's not trickling down, so that's still not helpful.
I'm kind of scared about it, now you think about I don't want their money, because then that's when
Right? Because there's always a catch. There's always... Yeah.
I don't want it.
Right? So, U.S. overdose deaths from fentanyl and synthetic opioids have doubled since this last year. So, again, to kind of harp on this stuff, we can go over the numbers in a bit, but just kind of the main point to take away from this is that it's sales are through the roof, drug overdose is through the roof, and the way to understand it is fairly simple. It's basically what you think it is, just big money, big industry, just kind of protecting its own. Lobbyists stepping forward in the defense. I've got this article here from Vox, written by John Moore.
Live Fox?
Or the image from John Moore.
Fox.com.
This is updated by German Lopez. Where
at German Lopez Twitter.
Right, where Senator Claire McCaskill, Democrat from Missouri, looked into this opioid company, and we were tracking how is it that such an like this. How is it that this can go undetected? How is it that Big Pharma can peddle all these pills out that we know have this negative effect on each other, and yet it's no problem getting this stuff out to people? And so the report, which McCaskill's office has described as the first round of an investigation into opioid companies, details the workings of Insys Therapeutics, which manufactures fentanyl drugs, says Subsys. According to the report, Insys misrepresented Subsys to get insurers to pay for it, letting the company sell its product to people who didn't need and shouldn't have access to such a powerful drugs. And so here we have another instance where this instance isn't even really racial, and it's not really anything else. It's not a matter of anything else, but just straight up corporate greed. And just straight up hey, there's money to be made here. So even though we know that this is literally killing people.
Yeah. All right. But you know what else too? A lot of people are ignorant to the point where they're like, oh, well, this heroin addiction or this opioid crisis is only for white people. Mm-hmm. Right. What are they drinking in Texas?
What are they drinking in Texas?
Yeah. Purple.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that purple...
Lean is an opioid.
Yeah.
Oh.
Shout out to Slim Thug.
So, you figure you have all these people out here that are like, oh, white people don't do heroin. Yes, you do. If you drink lean and you're drinking scissor, and other bullshit, you're an opioid addict.
That's a really good point.
And that for people to say, oh, those are white... No, see, that's the problem right there, is that you don't even know what the fuck you're drinking. You just following behind these rappers, or you just following behind this man and that man. That stuff is poison. And that's why you see these commercials right now. And Gucci Mane even said it himself when he was drinking lean, and Danny Brown has talked about this, that you start to get what is that? Opioid bowel. You get your bowels locked. You get opioid constipation. And there's like opioid constipation drugs out now too, because it starts to mess with your intestine system. Your stomach gets bloated, and that's why you look like how Gucci Mane was looking, like he was 12 months pregnant. And then
wait, so they got medicine for opioid bloat?
Yeah, absolutely. So commercial comes on all the time for that.
Wow.
Yeah, because opioids ruin your insides. Like, it is what it is. Like, you get constipated from it.
That's
so
crazy.
You stop going.
And they're so aware of it, they made a pill to address that.
Of course. But black people again are on this. Oh well, no, you're very much affected by this. So the next time that people want to put their nose up at other white people and say, "Oh, that's a hillbilly drug," or "That's what they do in Jersey," no, your ass is cracking up oxys and drinking that in your Sprite. You're just and then trying to make purple, pink, yellow, and whatever the hell else. Because there's a new color every week. Some people drink yellow, some people drink pink, some people drink purple, some people drink red. Yeah. It's all different shit. It's all but it's different companies, because like you have activists and you have other companies. Activists out here in Jersey. So but a lot of people don't realize like what they're drinking and what they're putting into their bodies. They're like, oh, it's just no, that shit is addictive. And that's why people are dying from it. We've lost how many rappers to scissor besides Pimp C and DJ Screw and Big Mo. A lot of people have died. Maybe they didn't die from that directly, but they're dying. Young people are just getting. That shit puts weight on you. It does a lot.
That's an interesting thing. I have friends, man, in the news feed talking about like, oh yeah, I have friends who are into like racing cars and shit. And they'll talk about how they have a cup of lean and then get behind the car and like street race and shit like that. And it's just like I think that's an interesting thing about like, again, like a personal responsibility thing. Are we making this shit sound too cool? Are we glorifying
it's
this
cough
shit?
Syrup, bro.
Yeah.
It's cough syrup. It can't be that horrible. You give your kids diamond tap, right?
Right.
Like we didn't shoot
some tussin.
We didn't shoot you in the arm with it.
Right.
But now there's a bunch of opioid shit. Like a lot of like I said, I'm not an expert on this whatsoever, but I know there's different brands of cough syrup that they have out there. Like I believe promethazine is very hard to come by, And like for a bottle of promethazine, it's super, super expensive because people were overdoing it with it. So that's why activists became like the thing people rap about now, because activists is that. But promethazine itself, that you heard like Pimp C and them rapping about, doesn't exist on the level that it used to exist. It's like that's why they come up with new brands. So every time they find a new brand. But like promethazine and stuff like that was like the thing that really had you leaning. You know, but the stuff that people are drinking now, man, they just do all types of shit. I've seen people put Xannies and Percocets and all type of shit.
Yeah, pills have always scared me, man.
And those are opioid. Those are still pills and stuff. I mean, people are crushing them up. People are smoking the pills and
rubbing
shit.
them on their gums.
Yeah.
Putting that shit in their pasta. Nah, man, shit's too much.
Keep them energy.
Yeah, the number of drug overdose deaths in the U.S. has increased by 21% last year, according to new statistics with synthetic opioid synthioxosis. The Haitian rum is percolating in my brain stem right now. All right, so
how much is related to jobs? People not having jobs, feeling depressed, and that's why they're
absolutely like for me, these issues are always connected. Like I saw an article. I saw a chart earlier. The states hit hardest by this stuff is West Virginia's, your states,
the mine areas,
right? Like blue collar workers,
well,
places.
What's Jersey's excuse? There's a lot of money up here.
Yeah, yeah.
And now a lot of people I know, I mean, I'm sorry to cut into that. I'm not finished, but there's no excuse for Jersey for that. I'm sorry. Go.
Yeah. I don't know where Jersey ranks in like the top, but the top 5
it's
states.
one of the worst in the country.
Yeah.
Opioid epidemic this is ground zero for it. That's why Chris Christie's on top of it. This is ground zero here in Jersey.
Oh, that makes
most of the overdoses.
Oh, Metuchen and shit.
It's happening here in Jersey. It's a national
Central
epidemic.
Jersey or South Jersey?
Central and South. The whole state of New Jersey in general is under siege.
Fuck.
Yeah, man.
I know a couple people that I saw them, and the only reason I knew they were on heroin is because I saw them on Facebook posts. I've been clean for X amount of years, and I was at my meeting, and they straight it to me. Had they not told me that, I would have never known they were on heroin. They didn't look like it. They looked like normal people. No track marks, no nothing. They looked like how they looked when I knew them when they were 14, 15 years old.
Damn.
So like
that's usually a telltale sign, though.
What?
They still look like they were teens.
Hell no. Telltale sign is when they look like they're 80. And like, what in the hell have you been doing to yourself?
It's like
skin's gray and shit.
Bro,
But like you look at somebody else, their skin is beaming, hair straight. You looking at them, and I don't mean hair straight as in texture. I mean they look straight. Like you looking like, yo, you alright. Like you looking like, I don't know, like you taking care of yourself. Meanwhile, they got a $200 a day habit.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they out there, these girls out there doing whatever they can to get hits.
Right.
You never would know.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Back Pages.
How many roses? 200.
Yeah, right. That just made it that much darker for you next time.
Yeah, I know, right, bro? Clear up my browser.
Yeah, right. This is what you're doing. All right, the national
supporting the. Oh, that's a good point, actually. When you're on back page and you're supporting someone's habit like that, you're adding more to the issue. You're not really helping somebody,
right?
So for you.
But I'm pro prostitution.
It's the oldest profession.
I'm not gonna make that argument, but I see your point. Yeah.
I honestly, bro, you could be supporting somebody's habit by buying a burger at McDonald's because you kept McDonald's open and got a job there. Yeah. Like, nobody knows what you're supporting when you buy anything. Like nobody
That's a
knows.
good point.
I could be, I know a couple strippers that was in college that was paying for college that way, and there's probably hookers that do the same thing.
Right.
Oh,
you still have their number?
I do.
It's like I do. I don't know about you.
I don't know about what you got.
Well, folks, that was another episode of Millennials versus Strippers. No.
Yeah, right. Millennials versus Bro Code.
Yeah.
He was like, nah.
You have to find out by yourself.
That's staying right here. Well, that's fair. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Trying to use you. You're supposed to be my Talib Kweli.
He's just like, hey, look.
I use your name to get ahead.
Fair enough. He's like, why would I want more fish in my pond? Like, this is my pond. Find your own pond.
Now I want more fish in my pond. I don't want no more sharks in my pond.
Yeah.
Shit, there's only one move from one shark. I always looking for fish.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Oh man, that was great.
Oh man, yeah, that was a good one. But yeah. So drug overdoses. Yeah.
We're laughing at druggies. Is that what we're doing?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, no. It's. I think it's important to kind of understand the different angles.
I think it's a huge. The irony is really crazy. How like you have this huge drug epidemic in New Jersey, and then clearly people are addicted to drugs, and then you have. Our governor, who people used to are questioning his habits, right? Whether how it's helping his health, and then some may argue that he might have like a poor eating or a food addiction himself. So it's like, how could you take, how can you take any provision seriously if like the head of the house doesn't seem to have his shit together?
Right.
It's the only man I know that ever had weight loss surgery. He knows nothing. Al Roker lost mad weight, and he was bigger than him. Like he had, remember he got surgery before he ran for the president because he was gonna be the fattest president ever since Robert Taft.
Yeah.
And Rob Taft and Taft, that wasn't his name. It wasn't
Will, right?
Was that William Taft?
Laffy Taffy.
Yeah.
It was William Howard Taft. That's his name. So Taft got stuck in the bathtub.
Yeah.
So they had to make a bigger bathtub. So can you imagine Chris Christie's fat ass getting stuck in the bathtub as a president? It wasn't a good look. So they made him lose some weight. They made him get the surgery, and he still didn't lose no weight.
Damn, man.
Are you sure he even got the surgery?
Yeah, he said he got the surgery.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, sometimes you could eat like your way through the lap band.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then you just like gain
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like, how the hell? So you're absolutely right. I don't take him serious. Like,
exactly. So who's gonna?
Right, but to refer back to this this report that Congressman McCaskill found. So she found that the IRC failed to maintain even basic measures to make sure that staff weren't lying and misleading insurers so that they would pay for subsist when patients didn't really need the drug, which is where it takes another kind of step into The unit took part in a lot of shady behavior as a result, even allegedly falsifying patients' medical records to help them attain prescriptions. Here's the problem. Subsist is a very powerful drug. It is highly potent and addictive. That's why it's meant for cancer patients. These patients typically need end-of-life care, meaning the risk of addiction isn't as big of a concern, and many have already developed a tolerance to opioids from previous use. So when INSIS representatives misled and in some cases flat out lied about a patient's needs, they helped push a dangerous drug to people who didn't need it. The results are often misuse, addiction, and death. Jesus Christ. According to a class action lawsuit, INSIS management was aware that only 10% of prescriptions approved through prior authorization department were for cancer patients. And an Oregon Department of Justice investigation found that 78% of pre-authorization forms submitted by INSIS on behalf of Oregon patients were for off-label uses. And so they're selling heavy-duty cancer patient drugs to people who don't even need it.
Right.
Just to make a buck off a cancer patient.
Right.
Wow, that just shows you where I hate to be one of those guys that sound like, oh, this is capitalism, but there you have it. It's like
that's the moral bankruptness of adopting a purely capitalistic healthcare system,
where you do whatever you can to just increase bottom line so that your stakeholders can be happy and you can do what you want to do as like
How many times have we seen this stuff? Where these companies come up with stuff like, and then years later, these drugs that are supposedly
they fuck
bad, they get banned, but yet they still find their way floating around. Perfect example, like ketamine, which is like tranquilizers for like horse tranquilizers, is still around.
Yeah.
Like you think the owners of ketamine really vet every single. Not saying vet to vet, but vet every single every vet that's out there. Like, why you order so much ketamine? Well, they need it here on the farm. I'm quite sure some of that ketamine goes missing. Same thing with this drug. It's always going to go missing. There's no way that you could possibly keep track of this. You can't.
Yeah.
There's always going to be, like, if anybody's ever worked retail, they know it's called shrink. Things go missing. So there's always going to go shrink. There's always going to, in the retail sector, you order 10 cases, they already know off the bat, out of those 10 cases we order, maybe out of those 10, 8 of them will make it. And then that's just the cost of doing business. That's what you always hear people say, the cost of doing business. So these things go off the back truck, so there's always going to be that around. So they really can never have them unless they find a way to microchip every single package or something like that. There's no way. Everybody knows there's somebody that works at the factory that gets shit off the truck.
Right. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, 100%.
Get them at the whatchamacallit, you would truck stops. Probably pop over the
These
trailers.
motherfuckers will whole living room sets from off the truck. Couch, TV, and everything else.
Yeah. Right off of Route 1. You'll see my gas station.
Yeah, right.
Like, you see there's
holding up signs and shit.
I mean, and not to go too far into the metaphor, but there's a whole store called Unclaimed Freight for that exact reason. So, like, there's so much shit that's getting shipped that you lose count.
Right.
So if you could lose count of 100 orders of tables, how the fuck you gonna keep count of 1,000 pills? Or you might have 10,000 pills. How are you gonna keep track of all those little pills and cases? You can't.
For sure.
If they can't keep track of living room sets, they didn't claim that. Like, it didn't come? Didn't notice.
And not only that, something else that I see that happens a lot is that they just go overseas. So, like, a lot of these, like, big pharma companies, what's happening is that their reputation is tanking. People are realizing that, like, these drugs are addicting. So what they'll just do is they'll just go to Africa, they'll go to Asia, they'll go to Latin America, they'll go to countries where they don't have the infrastructure to do drug abuse training and to help people with addiction and
Jump
shit.
off the regular.
Yep, just right. So just jump off whatever regular pills or extra pills that they have, and just, hey, look, it's someone else's problem. We still made another cool billion off of pills that we couldn't sell anywhere else. So they still see it as a profit, and they just move on.
The problem with these drugs is that they're synthetic.
Yeah,
that's the issue with them. It's not so much that they're drugs, it's that they're synthetic. Like, at the end of the day, there's no redeemable value in synthetic anything because it's fake. It's man-made. Like, people use coke down in, Peru and Colombia, back in Colombia, and, things of that nature. But, that had medicinal medicine man stuff. But, like, this stuff like that, there's no medicine man stuff like that because this is charging. Like, there's no history behind that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something else that's important too is that, like the medicine man stuff, talking about weed. I read somewhere that the first cultivated plant by humans were weed. That's the first thing that we started to, and so with weed, you could say that it's just superstition and this and that, but you can go back and find the antioxidants. You can find like phytonutrients in vegetables and in fruit and in nature. But with these synthetic things, we're only coming up with things that act like vitamin B. You want to come up with something that responds to the body like.
How about we look back 40, 60, 70 years later, we laugh. How the hell did people drink Coke? Like, what was wrong with you? Like, you drank Coke, actual cocaine and Coca-Cola? It was what we did. Right? And people be like, I felt great.
Yeah, and I bet you did.
And 70 years later, we're looking like you idiots.
Yeah.
How are people going to be like, wait a minute? So let me get this straight. You shot fentanyl back in 2017? That was a thing? Yeah. Like, how many times we go to an older thing, we read a history book, we go, people did dumb shit like that? That was a thing?
Yeah, people putting like leeches and shit for like, you have a cold. So
right, but we laugh at that, but they thought that was a real deal, right? In 20 years and 30 years, they're going to be like, so you guys did chemo with radioactive stuff, the same stuff that gave you the cancer, you fought that with that?
Yeah, right. You nuked all the white blood cells out of your body.
Right.
Yeah.
So right now, and it's so you got to remember like how we're looking at this right now. We're in a warp, so we can't really look at it. The hindsight is not always 20/20. It's not. That's a misnomer that people always go hindsight. No, it's not, because you can still look at past problems and still have the wrong idea about it, aka how people view slavery.
Yeah, the Civil War.
Like, the Civil War.
Yeah.
So obviously 2020 is not 2020 anymore.
They were traitors.
Right. So
assholes.
You have to be careful about how we view these things. So in 20, 30 years, we know what it is.
All right, damn. So
What a
dropped
talk.
a whole lot of knowledge, and we hope that the views that was expressed here weren't offensive to anybody, but the topic.
Literally only you. I think I had one earlier. I think I fucked up once. But basically you, yeah.
Nah, but listen, I apologize in advance. However, though, I just want to make this aware that we're just learning that there's been another mass shooting in Texas church. I'd like to send our condolences. Apparently, according to the Daily News, there's 26 dead.
I heard it was 20 last time I heard. Now it's up to 26.
It's 26, and I think they've got a shooter. His name is Devin Patrick Kelly.
Maybe you shouldn't have said his name, but that's fine.
So we have the Walmart shooter, we have the Texas shooter, and then we have the gentleman from last week up in New York.
So
who's Walmart?
Somebody shot up a Walmart a couple days ago.
I don't even think I heard about that.
Yeah.
It's too much to keep. It's like between that and the sexual assault stuff.
They found the guy in the house. He had nothing in his house but a stack of Bibles. Jeez. But they're not calling him a terrorist.
Yeah, right.
That's another thing for another show, though.
Absolutely, that's the topic for next week.
Yeah, right. Domestic terrorism. That's an interesting. Yeah.
So it says here, law enforcement officials identified Kelly, who was killed following the incident in First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Of course, I would imagine since it was Texas shooting.
Yeah.
Hours after news of the shooting first broke, dozens were left wounded. And the Associated Press reported that the church's pastor and his wife lost their teenage daughter in the massacre. She was only 14 years old.
It's too much.
So
man.
we send our deepest condolences to the family and those who've been affected by this tragic.
We're all affected by this, you know?
Yeah.
It's like at some point, and I'm sure part of it's intentional, at some point, how do you not hear all this news of all this death and devastation happening everywhere at random times in any state, anywhere? You could be watching a movie, you could be at the grocery store, you could be at the dentist's office, and some crazy asshole with a stack of Bibles can just start shooting. And there's nothing anyone can do about it.
Right.
It's just like it's affecting all of us. Like sometimes I kind of think about that. Like sometimes I kind of say to myself, how many shootings have happened in New Jersey? Does that make New Jersey safer? Is that a false sense of security? Should I really be nervous? And then I find myself in this Vindaloo K-hole where I'm just like, shit, like, should I be worried or should I not be worried because I don't want them to take my happiness away, my composure. Wow. So gunman who nonchalantly killed 3 at a Colorado Walmart has been arrested. Yeah, this report says November 2nd. So that's, what was that? Thursday? Jeez.
So here's the thing. So next week, I guess we could chime that up, Mike, if you're available.
We did talk about shootings, I think, just 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, this is I
feel a lot to talk about. Yeah.
I feel for the families, but I feel mostly for like our country because it's like I know we were founded on guns, Minutemen and shit like that, and but now it's the time to reevaluate our culture, especially with what happened in Vegas and what happened today. It's uncalled for, and
it's really just violence just for the sake of violence.
And to lose a 14-year-old, the pastor's daughter, I couldn't be in their shoes, man.
Yeah,
that's too much.
That's too much.
But other than that, yeah.
On that note, thanks, Wally.
Thanks for listening in.
Yes.
Follow us on Instagram.
Yes.
Mike, you want to give out your handles?
Absolutely. You can follow me on Instagram, Hustle, HUSTLE, 4, higher, Hustle for Hire.
That's right.
And David Williams, can you give him your diddles?
Dave Diddles. Come on, man. You can't be putting diddles in the. Follow me at Dave_Diddles. No.
Daddy Diddles.
Yeah, Daddy Diddles. The Diddle Daddy.
Diddle Daddy.
Yeah, follow me at DADDY.
And then we play the Seventh Heaven music in the background.
Oh,
that's hilarious.
No. You try to have the FBI investigate me and shit. Yeah, so Dave_Will_music 333.
You gotta work on that.
Yes,
that should be a t-shirt. You got John 3-3. What was it? Stone Cold Steve Austin had his 316 shit.
Yeah.
Daddy Diddles 316.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. I'm like,
he's like, Jesus Christ.
I really don't want that association at all.
Tag Daddy Diddles. No, it's new album.
Fuck.
No. Don't do that.
Terrible.
But do hashtag MXE podcast. MXE podcast. Twitter, Instagram, Scratch Chat. Snapchat. We out here. We doing our thing.
I appreciate y'all having me once again.
Of course. Thank you for coming out.
Thanks for coming all the way. Don DeMarco. All right, we out.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.